All right, let's jump right in.
Sounds good to me.
So today we're taking a deep dive into Paris.
Ooh la la.
Yeah, but we're going beyond those picture postcard images, you know?
Right, not just the Eiffel Tower and croissant.
Exactly. We're
Yeah.
using the Wikipedia article on Paris to
Oh, interesting.
to really uncover what makes this city tick.
It's like we're getting a secret decoder ring for the City of Lights.
That's a great way to put it. I love that.
Yeah, and what I think is so fascinating about Paris is that,
Yeah.
its history isn't just like a bunch of dates and names. It's like woven into the very fabric of the city.
I mean, you can really see that when you walk around those streets.
For sure.
So let's start at the beginning. We talk in ancient history here.
Oh, yeah, way back.
Okay.
Before the berets and baguettes,
Uh-huh.
there was this Celtic tribe called the Parisi.
The Parisi.
Yeah, and they settled on this little island in the Seine, the Ile de la Cité.
Ile de la Cité. Why there, of all places?
Well, it wasn't about the view.
Right.
It was all about strategy, you see.
Okay.
The Ile de la Cité was this major trading hub right in the middle of this important north-south route.
So they were at like a crossroads.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Think of it as like the ancient equivalent of being at the intersection of all the major highways.
Ah, so they were the original Parisian entrepreneurs.
Exactly, and that focus on trade and connections.
Yeah.
Well, it's something that you see echoed throughout Paris's history, even today.
It's in their DNA.
I think so.
So how did the Parisi become Parisians?
Well, that's where the Romans come in.
Ah, the Romans.
Yeah, they conquered the area around 52 BC,
Okay.
and they renamed it Lutetia.
Lutetia. Okay.
And as Romans do, they got busy
They
building
could help themselves.
like the Added Forum, baths, temples, and amphitheater, the works.
Wow. So they basically gave Paris a Roman makeover.
It was more than just a makeover, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Romans laid the groundwork for the city's future development. It's like they set the stage for this grand drama that Paris would become.
And we all know Paris is dramatic.
For sure.
So this drama unfolds over centuries, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right. So fast forward a few hundred years.
Okay.
And who do we meet?
You got Clovis, the first king of the Merovingian dynasty,
Okay.
making Paris his capital.
So this is a big deal,
Huge.
right?
It's the 6th century AD, and Paris is officially the center of power.
Wow. What a moment for the city.
Yeah, but of course it wasn't all smooth sailing.
I was going to say, weren't those Viking raids a bit of a headache?
Oh, those Vikings always showing up at the worst possible time.
Yeah.
They tried to sack Paris in 845,
Okay.
but the city's defenses held strong.
They put up a good fight.
It's almost as if that moment solidified Paris's image as a city that could stand its ground.
Right. A city that wasn't going to back down.
Exactly.
So from Vikings to kings, Paris has seen it all.
It really has. What a story.
So what came next?
Well, under the Capetian dynasty, starting in the 10th century, Paris truly blossomed.
All right.
It became the largest and most prosperous city in France,
Wow.
attracting scholars, artists, and merchants.
It's amazing to think that the Paris we know today has these roots stretching back over 1,000 years.
Yeah, it really is.
But I imagine it was a very different city back then.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, for example, in the Middle Ages,
Mm-hmm.
Paris wasn't exactly known for its hygiene.
Oh, no.
Yeah, in fact, some streets were actually named after merde,
Oh, wow.
human waste.
That's not the kind of souvenir you'd want to bring home.
No, not exactly.
Yeah.
But it gives you a glimpse into the realities of life in a medieval city.
Right.
And it highlights just how dramatically Paris has transformed over the centuries.
I mean, we've come a long way from open sewers.
That's for sure.
So how did Paris go from medieval merde to the city of lights we know today?
Well, it took some visionary leaders and a whole lot of urban planning,
Okay.
starting in the late Middle Ages. And continuing through the Renaissance rulers like Philip Augustus, focused on infrastructure,
Okay.
building walls and improving sanitation.
So they were laying the groundwork.
Yeah, and then you had figures like Cardinal Richelieu, who were all about beautifying the city with palaces and gardens.
So each ruler added their own touch to the Parisian canvas.
Exactly. And speaking of adding touches, we can't forget Louis XIV.
Ah, the Sun King.
Now, he actually moved the royal court out of Paris to Versailles.
Wait, wasn't that a blow to Paris?
It could have been, but here's where it gets interesting.
Oh?
Louis XIV might have left Paris physically,
Yeah.
but his influence on the city's cultural development was huge.
Interesting.
He founded institutions like the Comédie Française,
Oh, wow.
the Academy of Painting, and the French Academy of Sciences,
Huh.
all of which helped shape Paris into the intellectual and artistic hub it is today.
So it's kind of a cultural trade-off, Paris lost the king,
Right.
but gained a whole lot of artistic and intellectual capital.
Precisely. It's like Paris was becoming a stage for the greatest minds and talents of the era.
And then along comes Napoleon Bonaparte,
Oh, yeah?
who, as you might expect, loved grand gestures.
Oh, he did.
I can just imagine Napoleon strolling through Paris, pointing at things and saying,
Ah,
we need an Arc de Triomphe here,
yeah.
and let's put a giant cemetery over there.
You're not far off.
Really?
Napoleon's vision for Paris was all about grandeur and legacy.
Okay.
He left his mark on the city with monuments like the Arc de Triomphe and the column in Place Vendôme, as well as the expanding infrastructure and creating public spaces like parks and cemeteries.
So Paris was becoming a city of monuments as well as ideas.
Exactly. But the most dramatic transformation was yet to come.
Oh, really?
And Napoleon III and his prefect of the Seine-Baron Haussmann.
Now, I've heard of Haussmann, but wasn't he the guy who basically redesigned Paris?
He was, and his urban renewal project in the mid-19th century was absolutely massive.
Okay.
We're talking about wide boulevards, those iconic Haussmannian apartment buildings with their elegant facades and a whole new layout for the city.
So basically, he ripped up the old Paris.
It was a huge construction project.
Wow.
Haussmann basically ripped up the old medieval Paris and created the city we know today.
It's hard to imagine Paris without Haussmann.
Isn't it?
So Haussmann's Paris was a city ready for the modern age.
It was?
But how did it handle becoming a global metropolis?
Well, that's what we'll explore next.
Okay.
Paris has always been a magnet for people, but the 19th and 20th centuries saw its population explode.
Wow.
And so look at how the city coped with that growth and the challenges it brought.
Sounds fascinating. So much history tacked into one city.
It really is.
I'm ready to keep digging into this Parisian puzzle.
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, so we've seen how Paris evolved from this tiny island settlement to this grand metropolis.
Yeah.
But what about the heart and soul of Paris? The stuff that makes it more than just buildings and streets.
Oh, that's where things get really exciting.
Okay, tell me more.
Paris isn't just a city.
Yeah.
It's this living, breathing cultural tapestry.
So we're talking about like the art, the music, the fashion, all that good stuff.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's not just about like, the famous names and masterpieces.
Right.
It's like woven into the daily life of the city.
Oh, okay.
The way Parisians express themselves, connect with each other, experience the world.
I like that it's part of their DNA.
It is.
So where do we even begin to unravel this tapestry?
Well, let's start with something Paris has been famous for centuries.
Okay.
Painting and sculpture.
Ah, yes. I'm picturing those grand salons filled with impressionist masterpieces.
Yeah, you're not far off.
Okay.
But Parisian art goes way beyond Impressionism. It's this long and rich tradition from the royal patronage of the Renaissance to the avant-garde movements of the 20th century.
So it's like a constant evolution of styles and ideas.
Exactly, and you can see that evolution reflected in the city's incredible museums.
Oh, the museum.
Of course, you have the Louvre, which is practically a pilgrimage site for art lovers.
I have to admit, I get a little overwhelmed just thinking about the Louvre.
Really?
It's so vast.
It is.
Where do you even start?
Well, it's definitely a marathon, not a sprint.
Okay.
But if you're feeling intimidated by the sheer scale of the Louvre,
Yeah.
I'd recommend starting with a smaller museum, like the Musée d'Orsay.
The Musée d'Orsay. What's special about that one?
Well, it's housed in this beautiful old train station,
Oh, wow.
which is a work of art in itself.
Okay.
And their collection focuses on Impressionist and Post-Impressionist masterpieces.
So we're talking
Yeah.
Monet, Renoir, Degas.
Exactly. Think Monet's water lilies, Renoir's dance scenes, Degas' ballerinas.
Okay.
It's like stepping into a world of light and color.
That sounds more manageable than trying to tackle the entire Louvre.
It is.
So you can kind of ease your way into it.
Yeah, and if you want to go even deeper into a specific artist,
Okay.
you have museums like the Musée Picasso,
Yeah.
dedicated to the evolution of Picasso's groundbreaking work,
Uh-huh.
or the Musée Rodin, where you can get up close and personal with the powerful sculptures of the Thinker and the Kiss.
See, and those I can picture.
There
You
you
know,
go.
I think what's amazing about Paris is that it's not just a city of grand museums and famous artists. There's this whole underground scene of smaller galleries and studios
Right.
where you can discover up-and-coming talent.
Absolutely. Paris is a city that nurtures creativity in all its forms.
Yeah.
It's a place where artists come to experiment, to challenge conventions, to find their voice.
It's like the city itself is a giant canvas,
Yeah.
constantly being repainted with new ideas and expressions.
And that creative energy extends beyond the visual arts.
Oh, really?
Paris has always been a haven for writers.
Yes, the literary cafes.
Yeah.
The bookshops along the Seine. It's like every corner whispers a story.
Think about Victor Hugo,
Okay.
whose Les Miserables
Yeah.
brought 19th century Paris to life.
Such a powerful book.
Or Ernest Hemingway, who famously said, Paris is a movable feast.
I love that quote.
It's a city that inspires writers to capture its essence,
Yeah.
its beauty, its gritty underbelly.
And it's not just about the famous writers of the past, right? Paris has this vibrant contemporary literary scene
It does.
with bookstores hosting readings, poetry slams, all sorts of events that bring literature to life.
It's a city that truly celebrates the power of words.
The written word, the spoken word.
Yeah, and that celebration extends to the stage as well.
The Parisian theater scene.
Yeah.
I've heard it's electric.
It is, you have these grand, historic venues, like the Comédie Française,
Okay.
which is the oldest national theater in the world. It
Wow.
was founded way back in 1680 by King Louis XIV,
No way.
and it's still going strong today.
That's some serious theatrical history.
It is, and then you have the Opera Garnier,
Ooh la la.
this opulent palace of music and dance.
Okay.
Just walking into that building is an experience.
It's like stepping back in time.
It is, but Paris also has that offbeat side too.
Oh,
Yeah, there are countless smaller theaters, experimental performance spaces, cabaret stages, all contributing to this incredibly vibrant theatrical landscape.
it's like a kaleidoscope of genres and styles.
Yeah.
Constantly shifting and evolving.
And speaking of shifting and evolving, let's not forget about the music.
Oh, the music.
Paris has a soundtrack all its own.
From classical to jazz to hip-hop, it's all there.
It is.
I bet those smoky jazz clubs have seen some incredible performances.
Oh, they have? Think Django Reinhardt, the legendary guitarist,
Okay.
or Sidney Bechet, the clarinet virtuoso.
Yeah.
They helped shape the sound of Parisian jazz in the early 20th century.
It's music that's both timeless and deeply rooted in the city's history.
Exactly. But Paris isn't stuck in the past.
Right.
It's also a city that embraces contemporary music.
Okay, so...
Hip-hop, electronic music, rock, you name it. Paris has a stage for it.
It sounds like a music lover's paradise.
It is.
But let's be honest. No trip to Paris is complete without indulging in the culinary scene.
Ah, yes. Parisian cuisine.
Ooh la la.
It's more than just food. It's an art form.
Okay, so we're talking those Michelin-starred restaurants with their impossibly delicate dishes.
They're definitely part of the Parisian culinary landscape.
Okay.
And in 2018, Paris boasted 10 out of the 27 Michelin 3-star restaurants in all of France.
10 out of 27.
Yeah,
That's a pretty impressive concentration of culinary excellence.
it is. But Paris is also a city of contrasts.
In what way?
Well, for every Michelin-starred restaurant,
Yeah.
there are countless bistros and brasseries serving up classic French comfort food.
So you can have a 5-star dining experience.
Right.
Or a casual meal at a neighborhood bistro.
Exactly. It's all part of the Parisian experience.
I love that.
And speaking of experiences, we can't forget about fashion.
Fashion.
Paris is, after all, the fashion capitals of the world.
Those Paris Fashion Week shows are legendary.
They are?
I can only imagine the frenzy of designers, models, and fashion editors.
It's a spectacle. But the magic of Parisian fashion isn't confined to the runway.
Okay.
It's in the streets,
Yeah, okay.
the way Parisians put together an outfit,
Yeah.
the effortless chic they seem to exude.
It's like they were born with an innate sense of style.
There's definitely a certain je ne sais quoi to Parisian fashion.
Yeah.
It's not just about the clothes.
Right.
It's an attitude, a way of carrying yourself.
And that effortless chic extends to everything from their fashion to their photography, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Paris has a rich history of photography,
Mm-hmm.
and its photographers have a knack for capturing the city's soul,
Okay.
its beauty, its everyday moments.
I'm thinking of those iconic black and white photos of lovers kissing by the sun.
Ah, you're probably thinking of Robert Doisneau,
Yeah.
whose work beautifully captured everyday life in Paris in the mid-20th century.
Okay.
His photograph, Le baiser de l'hôtel de ville, the kiss at the town hall, is one of the most famous images of Parisian romance.
It's a classic.
It is.
But there are so many other photographers who've contributed to Paris's visual legacy.
Yes, you have photographers like Eugene Etguet, who documented the city's architecture and street scenes in the early 20th century,
Wow.
creating this incredible archive of old Paris.
Wow.
And then you have Brassai,
Versailles.
a Hungarian photographer
Yeah.
who captured the city's nightlife and underbelly in the 1930s.
It's like Paris is this constantly evolving muse,
Yeah,
inspiring artists in every medium.
it is.
We've covered so much ground here. Art, literature, theater, music,
Yeah.
food, fashion, photography.
It's amazing.
It's a whirlwind of cultural riches.
And we've only scratched the surface.
Oh, really?
Paris is a city that rewards curiosity.
I like that.
There's always something new to discover.
Mm-hmm.
A hidden courtyard,
Okay.
a quirky museum,
Yeah.
a vintage bookstore tucked away on a side street.
I'm already feeling inspired to book a flight
Really?
and get lost in those Parisian streets.
You should.
But before I do,
Yeah.
let's talk about the practical side of life in Paris.
Okay.
The stuff that keeps the city running.
Right.
The everyday essentials.
That's a crucial part of the Parisian puzzle.
Okay.
We'll delve into the infrastructure, the services, the systems that make Paris tick.
Lead the way. I'm ready to see how the City of Lights keeps its lights on. Okay, so we've explored, the grand history
Right.
and the cultural heart of Paris.
Yeah.
But now let's get down to
Okay.
the everyday life of a Parisian.
Right.
What keeps the city humming besides those delicious pastries, of course?
Well, just like any global city,
Mm-hmm.
Paris has this intricate network of systems and services
Yeah.
that most people never even think about.
Right. It's like the behind-the-scenes crew of a movie. You don't see them,
Exactly.
but they make the whole thing work.
Yeah, and it all starts with information.
Oh.
Parisians, like everyone else, need to stay informed.
So we're talking news.
Yeah.
Are we picturing those classic Parisian kiosks
Ah,
overflowing with newspapers?
those kiosks are like a Parisian icon,
They are.
and they're stocked with papers like Le Monde and Le Figaro, which are kind of like their newspapers of record.
So like our New York Times or Washington Post.
Exactly.
But I imagine it's not just print these days,
Oh,
right?
of course not. Paris has embraced the digital age just like everyone else.
Yeah.
You've got online news sites, blogs, podcasts.
The whole digital media landscape.
Exactly.
So Parisians get their news from this mix of traditional and digital sources.
Yeah.
What about staying connected beyond the news?
Well, Paris has a pretty robust telecommunications infrastructure.
Okay.
High-speed internet, widespread mobile phone coverage, you name it.
So no problem staying connected.
Not at all. Staying connected is definitely not a problem in Paris.
I mean, I'd hate to be cut off from the world in the City of Lights.
You and me both.
So Parisians are plugged in both literally and figuratively.
For sure.
Okay, but let's shift gears for a moment
Right.
and talk about something a little more lighthearted.
Okay.
Holidays and festivals.
Ooh la la la!
Ah, yes, the Parisian party scene.
They know how to celebrate.
So, besides the obvious one, Bastille Day,
Yeah.
what else gets Parisians out on the streets celebrating?
Well, Bastille Day is definitely the big one.
Right.
It's their Independence Day celebrated on July 14th.
Okay.
With this massive military parade on the Champs-Élysées flyovers by the Pétrolier de France and fireworks at the Eiffel Tower.
Wow. Sounds spectacular.
It is. But what about the rest of the year?
Yeah.
Well, in the summer, there's Paris Plage.
Paris Plage, what's that?
They actually transformed the banks of the Seine into a temporary beach.
Wait, really?
Yeah, complete with sand deck chairs and palm trees.
Oh, wow. They bring the beach to the city. That's pretty clever.
It's a great way to enjoy the summer months in Paris.
I can imagine.
And for history buffs,
Okay.
there's Journée du Patrimoine, which happens in September.
What happens then?
They open up historical buildings and monuments that are normally closed to the public.
So you get to peek behind the curtain
Exactly.
of some of those grand Parisian institutions?
And for art lovers,
Yeah.
there's Nuit Blanche, an all-night arts festival in October.
Ooh, an all-night festival.
Yeah, imagine installations, performances, and exhibitions all over the city.
So the city comes alive.
It does. It's a truly unique experience.
It sounds like a city that knows how to celebrate.
For sure.
But all this celebrating must take a toll on the body eventually.
Right.
What about healthcare in Paris?
Well, Paris has a long history of medical innovation.
Okay.
And today, they have a mix of modern and historic hospitals.
Yeah, I'm picturing those elegant old-world hospitals you sometimes see in movies.
You're probably thinking of the Hôtel Dieu de Paris,
Okay.
which is the oldest hospital in the city.
Really? How old are we talking?
Dates back to the Middle Ages.
Middle Ages.
Yeah.
Wow, but I imagine they've updated their medical practices since then.
Oh, definitely. They've kept up with the times.
Okay.
And in terms of the overall system,
Yeah.
Paris has a public healthcare system that's considered quite good.
Okay.
It's called Assistance Publique Hôpitaux de Paris.
Wow, that's a mouth.
It is. And it's the largest hospital system in Europe.
Really? The largest in Europe? Wow.
Yeah. So Parisians have access to quality health care.
That's good to know.
And what about another essential service?
Okay.
Libraries.
Ooh, libraries.
Oh, Paris is a bookworm's paradise.
Really?
They have an incredible library system.
Okay.
The crown jewel is the Bibliothèque Nationale de France,
Wow.
one of the largest and most prestigious libraries in the world.
So it's not just about those cute little bookstores along the Seine.
Those are charming. But the Bibliothèque Nationale is on another level.
Okay.
They have millions of books, manuscripts, and documents.
Wow.
And their François Mitterrand library is this architectural masterpiece.
It sounds like a place where you could get lost for days in the best possible way.
Absolutely. And beyond the National Library,
Yeah.
you have university libraries, specialized libraries, and neighborhood libraries all over the city.
It's a testament to how much Paris values knowledge and learning.
It really is. And that commitment to learning goes hand in hand with their education system.
Well, I mean, Paris is home to the Sorbonne, right?
Yeah.
That's a name synonymous with academic excellence.
It is. The Sorbonne, founded in the 12th century, is one of the oldest and most prestigious universities in the world.
Wow.
Although it was divided into 13 autonomous universities in 1970,
Okay.
it still holds a prominent place in the Parisian
Yeah.
and global educational landscape.
So the legacy of the Sorbonne continues to this day.
It does. And beyond the Sorbonne, you have a whole network of grandes écoles,
Okay.
which are these specialized higher education institutions.
Okay.
These schools are highly selective and often train future leaders in fields like engineering, business, and politics.
Sounds intense.
It can be.
But it sounds like an incredibly rich and diverse educational landscape.
Paris is a city that invests in its people and in the future.
Well, I think it's safe to say that our deep dive into Paris has been an eye-opening experience.
Okay.
You've gone from, ancient settlements
Right.
to modern infrastructure, from world-class art to everyday life.
It's been a journey
It has.
through time culture
Yeah.
and the very essence of what makes Paris so captivating.
I think what's become clear is that Paris is so much more than just a pretty face.
Absolutely.
It's a city with depth, complexity,
Hmm.
and a spirit of constant reinvention.
Exactly. Paris is a city that embraces its past, thrives in the present,
Yeah.
and looks towards the future with this sense of optimism and possibility.
It's a city that's always moving forward.
It is.
So as we wrap up our Parisian adventure,
Yeah.
I'm left wondering, what will the next chapter hold for this incredible city?
That's the beauty of Paris.
Yeah.
It's a city that's constantly evolving, surprising us and inspiring us. And I have a feeling the next chapter will be just as captivating as all the ones that came before.
I can't wait to see what unfolds. Until then, au revoir from the City of Lights.